We go together, you and I. Together, you and I cannot go alone, for you are part of me. We go together, you and I. Together, you and I. I cannot go without you, for you are part of me. Hello and welcome to a new podcast series with me, Leon Joel Russell, Karen Parente and Briana G. And together we'll be reading and working our way through the Course in Miracles pamphlet, A Song of Prayer. Enjoy. How are you both?
Good. Very well.
Excellent.
Doing good.
Great. So we're going to carry on with our discussion of A Song of Prayer, and we're into the section called True Prayer. And it's got 7 paragraphs. So what we've decided to do is talk about the first 4 today. And that comes to a nice conclusion within itself, and then we can pick it up again next time, which all seems like a really nice thing to do and something that we all felt the same about, so that's a good sign. So let's have a look at what A Song of Prayer says about true prayer. Prayer is a way offered by the Holy Spirit to reach God. It's not merely a question or an entreaty. It cannot succeed until you realize that it asks for nothing. How else could it serve its purpose? It's impossible to pray for idols and hope to reach God. True prayer must avoid the pitfall of asking to entreat. Ask rather to receive what is already given, to accept what is already there. You've been told to ask the Holy Spirit for the answer to any specific problem, and that you will receive a specific answer if such is your need. You've also been told that there's only one problem and one answer. In prayer, this is not contradictory. There are decisions to make here, and they must be made, whether they be illusions or not. You cannot be asked to accept answers which are beyond the level of need that you can recognize. Therefore, it's not the form of the question that matters, nor how it is asked. The form of the answer, if given by God, will suit your need as you see it. This is merely an echo of the reply of his voice. The real sound is always a song of thanksgiving and of love. You cannot then ask for the echo. It's the song that's the gift. Along with it come the overtones, the harmonics, the echoes, but these are secondary. In true prayer, you hear only the song. All the rest is merely added. You've sought first the kingdom of heaven, and all else has indeed been given you. The secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. To ask for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and then forgive it. Also, in the same way, in prayer, you overlook your specific needs as you see them. Let them go into God's hands. There, they become your gifts to Him, for they tell Him that you would have no gods before Him, no love but His. What could His answer be but your remembrance of Him? Can this be traded for a bit of trifling advice about a problem of an instant's duration? God answers only for eternity, but still, all little answers are contained in this. Wow.
Well, that was beautiful, as usual, right? Because the entire course is beautiful. But I can take these very beautiful, flowery words and condense them down into sort of a how-to instruction manual to a certain degree, because what I'm hearing.
Can you do it and be blunt and upfront about it at the same time?
Oh, yes. In fact, that's the only way I know how to do it, Leon.
Please give us the gift of your way.
Okay. So here come the ones and zeros again. So
Of
basically, it's instructions that if you're believing that you have a problem within the world, and you're praying for specifics of that problem to be fixed within the world, you're completely in the ego when you do that. Nothing good can come of that, because you are reinforcing ego's beliefs. You're reinforcing the world of form. You're reinforcing that your problems are real within the illusory world of form when you're doing that. And so you've just gone completely the wrong way, and you're not achieving what it is that we're all looking to achieve, which is peace, which is love. So if you do it the other way that he's saying, where you let go of the specifics of your problem, if you focus simply on joining with God, on the oneness, on the wholeness, the truth of who we are, and you're not trying to be in control, and you give it over to spirit and you let spirit handle it, but your job, what you're doing, is focusing on what spirit is, focusing on that wholeness, that oneness, identifying with spirit, basically. If you do that, boom, next thing you know, you're being inspired with this answer to what you thought was your problem within the world, but it's because you approached it through spirit and these echoes that he's talking about. Now you've gone to the real source, and a little echo that comes out of you connecting with your source, with that love, your wholeness, your truth. A little echo that happens is over there in that pretend dream we're having. You get a little answer, to your problem. In fact, as I was just saying that, it reminds me of a time years ago. So a long, long time ago, I used to study French. I was fluent in French, not at an adult level, but like at a child level, I was fluent in French. And I lived in France for a while. That was sort of the peak of it. Like I really got to practice all those years of French, living there and everything. And then I moved back to America, and I basically never spoke French again. So years later, in a dream, I was having a dream and I was speaking French in the dream. And I couldn't remember the name for napkin in the dream. And another character in the dream came up to me and whispered in my ear, "Sir." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." So that example of that quote unquote dream that I had, it shows kind of this echoes thing where here I'm in a dream, I'm just letting it go. My mind is just kind of doing its thing. I think I'm lacking something. I think I don't know something. I can't remember this word. And then spirit comes in and just gives me the word, because my mind was all loosey goosey, because it was all out there doing its, thing. And I wasn't consciously, controlling it. So that just came to me as an example of how when you just let it go and you don't have an attachment to the outcome, boom, the answers just come in. And so that's what these 4 paragraphs are saying to me, is you have to do it from within, connect with spirit, know the truth of who you are. I lose the specifics, go into abstract mode. And then boom, the next thing you know, you're being given a specific when your mind is ready for it to solve that quote unquote problem that you think you have. But that was never the problem. The problem was that you forgot to be how to abstract and connect with God. So it's almost like a little reward, a little incentive that we're getting designed by Holy Spirit to keep us connecting with God, to keep us in that abstract mode, to let go of the specifics, and showing us again and again that Holy Spirit will take care of the specifics of our illusory dream if we stop identifying with it. That's what I learned from these 4 paragraphs.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Karen, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, thank you for that. And that is really the whole course, what you just said, basically, because it's always, recognizing that the problem is not in the world, that the problem is in the mind, and that it's always a decision. It's everything is a decision. So it's the decision to listen to the Holy Spirit. And for me, it's like it takes definite. I'm still in practice with that because the ego still speaks first and loudest for me. But the good news with that is that that's okay because the ego is still, I know that they're not my real thoughts. So they don't bother me like they used to anymore. So it's not a big deal. So I can more easily and sooner go back into spirit and ask, or not even sometimes have to ask, it'll just come to me. But what I thought was interesting in this first paragraph was the first sentence. He says, prayer is a way offered by the Holy Spirit to reach God. And then in sentence 6, he says, true prayer must avoid the pitfall of asking to entreat. So he's going from prayer to true prayer in that first sentence. And so it did jump out at me, that first sentence, because for me, it kind of reminded me of what you said about the specifics. And we want to learn to generalize and bring everything like to prayer is a way offered by the Holy Spirit to reach God, because with that, it's offering the Holy Spirit whatever that prayer is. And that for me, I mean, I can't really separate prayer from true prayer with this, because when I'm offering it to the Holy Spirit, to me, that's true prayer. That is true prayer. So that is the holy relationship for me. That is seeing the experience, feeling the experience of, when I ask the Holy Spirit, it's for everyone. This prayer is for everyone. It's offered by the Holy Spirit to reach God, which means it's for all. It's not just for my little self that I think it's for. It's for everyone. And it's really hard to describe and explain, but that is the holy relationship. The holy relationship is, the Holy Spirit seeing everyone the same and everything the same. So it's not asking for anything. It's already knowing that I have everything, and ask rather to receive what is already given and to accept what is already there. So, that's really remembering that, because it can be easy to forget sometimes what's already there for me, and, when I think I'm lacking something, and like just recently, I went through this little grief process. I was going through this sadness, and it had to do with the body, and so I noticed every time I seem to get any type of sadness or depression, it's always related to the body. And then I know this is not true. This is not real. Here's the story you're making up. I can't just say, okay, I'm feeling a little sad. I have to say, I'm feeling a little sad because, and then I go into the story about it, and then I believe it, and then I make it real, right?
Yeah.
So I noticed that. I noticed what I did, and it was like, okay, go through the feelings, feel the sadness, let it go. It's real. I'm feeling it, but don't identify with it. That is not the truth of who you are. And give it, that's what I give to Holy Spirit. I give that to Holy Spirit. help me see this differently, because right now, so what are you trying to teach me here? What are you trying to show me? And it's always the same thing. I'm being shown that this is not the truth of who you are, and ask rather to receive what is already given and to accept what is already there. Deny, he tells us to deny the denial of truth.
Mm.
So don't believe in this, right? It's okay that you're experiencing it. Don't deny what you're feeling, but deny the ego's interpretation. So that's basically what I got out of I'm going to try to do one paragraph at a time. It's easier for me.
Yeah, good idea. I think that's a great way of doing it. I'm really glad
Yeah.
that you pulled up the last bit as well, because ask rather to receive what is already given, to accept what is already there. And what that brings me to contemplate, I think it's really interesting how that is um, has dual interpretation. So if I'm in the zone and I'm feeling connected to spirit, the word ask is quite an interesting one for me to think about, because you know it almost kicks in when you're not in alignment with spirit, when you are in an egotistical mindset, then you can see how this is addressed, like ask rather to receive what is already given, because that implies that you're sitting there in prayer going, oh, I want this, I want that. And it's like, but if you're in spirit and you're already connected to everything, then asking is not, it's quite an interesting word, really, isn't it? Because you're not, what would you ask for if you already know your
Well, again,
position?
that the hologram comes to mind for me because yes, it's addressing all of the above. Um, sure. As soon as you're asking for something that implies lack, you're an ego. As soon as you're asking for anything, you're an ego. But we're never supposed to be ashamed of being an ego, right? We're just
Mhm.
supposed to observe it, recognize it, and change our mind. That's all. So the ego is actually a really helpful tool. Because as soon as we see ourselves asking or believing the ego's lack story in any way, shape, or kind, we know that we're having the wrong thoughts, we're in the wrong, belief system. So it's actually very helpful. So on the one level, yes, as soon as you're asking for something, you're uh in alignment with ego. You're believing you're lacking something. That's why you're asking for something. So sure, of course, if you make a different choice in that moment, now you're at one with God, you're at peace, and there's no need to ask for anything because you have everything. And so to me, when he talks about that, how you already have everything, it means love. It means our truth. It means our wholeness. It means
Mm.
heaven. It means the oneness that we really are. However, the course is always working within this hologram where we think we're these different things and there's these different rungs of the ladder of awakening. So if you're really deeply embedded within the ego's thought system and you are really believing that you're lacking something within the world, which these bodies, it's so easy to experience lack with your body, by working on connecting with spirit, then the little echoes come into your dream, the little echoes come into your illusion, and then you can get an answer from Holy Spirit about your dream life, about your ego body.
Mm.
But you still need to come from the place of being willing to connect with spirit, to see through spirit's eyes, to see a different perspective, to receive that echo in your dream.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh
So
yeah.
it's like it's every part of the hologram and every rung of the ladder. And it doesn't mean, if you're on a certain rung of the ladder that you're stuck there. You can easily go down a few levels if you want to, if you're having a little ego attack, or you could go up a few levels the next day. We're always going back and forth on that ladder, depending on where we're at any given moment.
Mm.
So Holy Spirit always has the right remedy for us, no matter which part of the hologram we think we're in. No matter which rung of the ladder we think we're on at the time, the right answer is always there. And the way to always receive that right answer is connecting with spirit, is giving our mind over to spirit and allowing spirit to do the thinking for us.
Mm.
And that listening thing we were talking about is so important because that's how we hear spirit. We have to shut up and listen. All that happen is coming from the ego trying to dictate and control. And Karen, you brought up something really important too about feeling your feelings. It is important, I think it's dangerous to always just be dissociating and saying, oh, it doesn't matter because, it's not real. Well, a part of us thinks it's real, and our emotions is our navigation tool to let us know if we're in alignment with ego and spirit. It's our emotions that are telling us that. So I think it's important to honor our emotions. And if we're having emotions that are in reaction to something within the dream, that's okay. If we don't pay attention to those emotions, they're just going to pop up again somewhere else, and we're just going to have to deal with it somewhere else. So we might as well see the emotions, listen to both sides of our mind. Okay, this is what ego is believing. That's why I'm feeling this feeling. Okay, what does spirit have to say about this? And then in that moment, it can be resolved. Those echoes can happen within your dream because you're willing to see it from Holy Spirit's perspective. But it is important to embrace our feelings, to love our feelings, not in a I'm putting on a pedestal and making you super important because everything you believe is real kind of way, but in an I love you and I hear you and you are loved and you're safe kind of way. Because those feelings of non-peace is the fear, that's coming from our ego. And the Holy Spirit is the great comforter. The Holy Spirit is there always to help us feel better. So it's important to start with those feelings, acknowledge them, process them, look at them, and then give them over. And then it all gets healed and taken care of. And to me, that is true prayer. It's this interaction between you and Holy Spirit. And all this healing is done by doing it. And no matter where you are, if you think you need some specifics, fine, you'll get some later. But first, you have to go to the abstract and you have to allow your heart and your mind to open to spirit. And that's how it all gets healed.
So, do you think like the importance of using the term abstract and pointing towards that is because obviously the lack of limit and definition, because it places you in a mindset, if you like, where there's nothing specific. It's open, isn't it? The abstract is open to come back at you. The echo can return in whatever form the echo should return in, because you've just seen things in a completely non-specific way.
Yeah. Those are Jesus's words. You know, Karen, I have no idea. What chapter is that? There's a chapter in the text where he talks all about abstract versus specific and how abstract is spirit and specifics are ego. And
I can't think of it, but I know what you're talking
it's
about.
like
Yeah.
early on. It's early on in the text. And I find in the course world that is forgotten a lot. In fact, the course world is very into specifics. And I'm so grateful that Jesus gives us those two words, early on in the course, because it really delineates those ones and zeros right away. And it makes it really easy to identify, which belief system am I functioning in right now,
Yeah.
So it's all about specifics. It's all ego. And abstract is our truth. And just yesterday, I was reading with a friend. We read the course together each week. I don't even know what chapter we're on, but I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about, where it talks all about the picture and the frame, and then the frame has the jewels and all of that. And it was talking. Sorry?
The two pictures.
Yes. But it was talking about the frame being, the ego, and the picture being spirit. And it reminded me of that, what you were just saying, Leon, about abstract and then, the confinements of specifics. And it was reminding me of the frame. So the frame you can think of as, any specifics of ego, but specifically time is a great example. So we took the picture, which is spirit, which is limitless, which will just simply extend forever. And we plopped it right inside of a frame and just cut it off and said, this is it. This is your limits. That's what time is. That's what the entire ego perspective is. It's all limited and it's all delineated. And back to, we were talking earlier before we started recording about four, a frame has four corners. Boom, it's done. It's in concrete. It's stable. Right. And we think of stability as being a good thing, but in this case, not so much, because then we have limited our abstract ability, the way that our mind really works. And this pertains to channeling as well. We're talking about me doing tarot, you writing music, Karen, you're doing it, and we're all doing it. Whoever's practicing the course in our everyday life, we're learning how to channel spirit. And the only way to do that is to open your mind to be abstract. It's the only way. And it reminds me exactly of what you were saying before we started recording, Leon, about this newest song that started to come to you. And you said to yourself, no, don't try to come up with words. Don't try to come up with anything, right? Because that would be specifics. That would be ego directing, controlling, putting a frame around it. No, just listen. So when you did that, when you were listening, now there's no frame, there's no limits on it. Now you're just open, and now spirit can bring in anything. And then what was delivered to you, you were like, wow, that's brilliant. I wouldn't have come up with that, right?
True.
Why? Because we've gone beyond our limitations.
Yeah, that's a good example too. Thank you. And the two pictures, because in the two pictures, he says several times, look at the picture. Do not let the frame distract you. And we easily, just like he's talking about here in true prayer, don't let the idols distract you. Don't ask for idols in true prayer. Look at the pictures. Look at the picture and realize that death is offered you. Because in the picture, the picture, that is the truth of what we are. The frame is the body. The frame is the attraction to guilt. The frame is what we're attracted to. We're attracted to these physical forms. We're attracted to these, anything in form that we're attracted to. It doesn't really matter what it is. And that's what he's telling us here, that, we must avoid that praying. It's impossible to pray for idols and hope to reach God, because God doesn't see that. God sees that, God only sees one. There's only one. And when I'm comparing, this idol, so that, well, this one's better, I like that worse. And, so it can get really, it can be very distracting. And the second paragraph, I just want to go into really quick for myself, because you have been told to ask the Holy Spirit for the answer to any specific problem, which we're talking about, and that you will receive a specific answer if such is your need. You also have been told that there is only one problem and one answer. And that's what you were talking about just earlier, Briana. It is always like, I already have the love of God. I am the love of God. I have God's love. And I am God's love. These are the review lessons right now. God is but love, and therefore so am I, and so are you, and so are we all. We're all that. That's what we are. So there is only one problem. And in that knowing, it's recognizing that when I'm putting anything before love, which I have done in my lifetime, and my biggest regrets in my lifetime have been those times when I put the frame before the picture and thought that was more important. It ended up not realizing Holy Spirit tried to tell me, and I had the feeling, I had the intuition. I could feel that stab of pain, but I went ahead and went with it anyway, because the ego wanted it. The ego wanted what it wanted when it wanted. And it was all for the learning. All for the learn. So let me see that this is not what's important here. This is meaningless. It is meaningless. It means nothing if I put value on it. The value is the content, is the love. And that's what true prayer is, that the prayer is the love. That's what we're paying attention to here. And there's one other place. I don't know where it is, but we'll get to it. I think it's in the 4 that you read. He talks about, put the kingdom of heaven first, and all else will be given unto you. That I learned from really not doing it. I learned how to do it by not doing it. And I really, like I said, the things that I regretted the most was when I did that, but I couldn't see it at the time. This was, even though I did get the nudges from Holy Spirit, I wasn't in tune enough. I was more in tune with the ego than I was with the Holy Spirit. So it was like, it was this battle. It was more like a battle. So now it's not that battle anymore. It's, oh my God, like I feel it. It's there. It's like I can't avoid it, so it's so obvious now. So I'm so grateful for the mistakes that I made because it brought me to where I am today, where they
Mhm.
were helpful. They were helpful. So now I can notice it, and I put love first more often than not. So that was
Mhm.
the lesson learned.
Wow,
Lesson learned.
lovely. Yeah, I notice a lot with my own sort of practice, say like setting myself up for the day. It is just sitting at the table and in the kitchen before I've got to leave to go and do work and stuff. And at the moment, it's got nice weather over here, so I can have the door open and hear the sounds outside and hear the clock ticking and not make any differentiation between all of the sensory information that's coming through is my primary experience, and to just notice all of it and to try not to overlay meaning on it, because by doing so I'm limiting what's
Mm.
happening. And I'm really glad that we're focusing on the abstract element of this, because it reminds me of something that I love from the course, even though it's not from the Song of Prayer. It says complete abstraction is the natural condition of the mind,
Yes.
but part
Mhm.
of it is now unnatural. It doesn't look on everything as one. It sees instead but fragments of the whole, for only thus could it invent the partial world you see. The purpose of all seeing is to show you what you wish to see. All hearing but brings to your mind the sounds it wants to hear. And thus were
Mhm.
specifics made. And
Mhm.
now it's specifics we must use in practicing. We give them to the Holy Spirit that he may employ them for a purpose which is different from the one we gave to them. Yet he can use but what we made to teach us from a different point of view, so we can see a different use in everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of how in our ego world, full of specifics, that we, mostly live our days that way. What do I have to do? What do I have to take care of? All these specifics that we have throughout our day. But we were talking earlier about drugs and drinking and things like that. And I'm just laughing in my head thinking about how many people, whether it be drugs, drinking, watching TV, playing video games, eating junk food, I don't care what the thing is, but we are
Yeah.
all looking to zone out. We are all looking to get away from the specifics and make our mind abstract. And we use all sorts of different tools within our specific false illusory world that we made to abstract our mind, because we don't like being in these specifics all the time. It's
Mm-hmm.
tiring. It doesn't feel good. So it's kind of funny that we're even within the, again, these echoes, the
Yeah.
echoes work always. It works with love, but it also works with the ego. There's echoes of the ego everywhere.
Yeah.
And so there we are acting that out all the time, trying to make our mind abstract, because it is really what we long for. It feels so good to have an abstract mind.
Mm.
And I also wanted to say that for me, for years, all the years practicing the course and stuff, I would wake up each morning, and it took me years to even notice I was doing this, but I would wake up and right away, because you're going from a dream world to, your so-called awake, quote unquote real life, but it's not. Um, Immediately remembering who I am, as far as, I'm Briana and I've got these things that I have to take care of today and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I remember times waking up all the time trying to remember, am I fighting with my husband or not fighting with my husband? I forget what's going on, because I've just been asleep and I'm trying to catch up on what was happening in my awake life. I remember thinking that sometimes, just trying to survive each day. Those were in the days of like having little kids, and, things were hard. Just trying to figure out each day when I woke up, like, who am I? Oh, yeah, I'm Briana. I have this life. I have things to solve. Okay, let's get up and start doing them. Like, that was how I was living my life each day. And I didn't even notice it. Eventually, I noticed it and I was paying attention. Then it switched over time to taking time each morning but as I'm getting up now, it's automatic. I don't even think about it. But as I would go into that old habit of like waking up, who am I? Oh, I'm Brianna. No, no, you're not. You're spirit. You're spirit. And I would remember God and I would remember spirit and I would go into the abstract. And then I would get up and start my day.
Mm.
Now I don't even really think anything. Like I already know. I practiced it so much that I already know that I'm spirit, like all the time now. And I feel like at this point in my life, I'm mostly living with spirit and I have all these, fallbacks to ego all the time, each moment of each day. There's all this
Yeah.
ego stuff going
Yeah.
on,
Same.
but it's not the majority of my mind anymore. It's, maybe it's 50-50 at this point. I don't know, but it's enough spirit that's different from what I used to have that I'm much happier, much more peaceful, and having a really good time in
Yeah.
my dream as I'm constantly reminding myself that I'm spirit and working on awakening because now I know what it's for. It's all just for forgiveness. It's all just for awakening. That's it. So now I can have fun. But I just wanted to bring that up of how this change that has happened on how I identify who I am each day when I wake up.
Well, that's excellent because, the bit that we're looking at where it says ask instead to acknowledge what you've already been given and what you've received,
Yeah.
it helps with this lens of like, for people to engage with the notion that prayer isn't an activity that happens in isolation at points in the day where you shut everything off and go and sit somewhere. And what you're just describing is an ongoing experience that we have at our disposal. And
Mhm.
it's like a state or a condition of our consciousness where we are holding on to that memory. Instead of asking for what we want to be given, we know that we're in possession of it. So you can be praying, as this is telling us, for most of your day. Well, it's relative,
Yes.
isn't it, to your input? We're talking almost about we've all been listening to Ego FM for all of our lives, and then it gets to the point where we're so done in by it that one day we twist the dial and find
Yes.
there's no noise, there's no
Yes.
station, there's just this endless abstraction of nothing. And we just lean in and go, oh my God, that's it. Oh, that. And then it's just the dial goes back to activity again. And we're just training ourselves to find that really our identity lies in between the stations that we always thought were who we were and who everyone else is and what life is, if you like.
That's a great analogy, though, with the radio station,
Yeah.
because it is all about frequency and what you're
Mm.
choosing to tune into. And you know how if you're in a bad reception area, let's say you're listening to a song on a radio station, and then every once in a while something else, comes in there
Yeah.
because it's picking other stations spotted here and there. I feel like at this point, using that analogy of the radio station, that I have learned how to tune into the radio station of Holy Spirit. I've learned how to do it because for years it was really hard, really hard. I didn't even know where the knob was to find the station. For a long time, I was like, how do I get there? And or for a while I'd be feeling it, and then one day I'd be like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? I don't even know how to get there. Where'd it go? That went on for years and years and years and years. Where now I feel like I am tuned in to Holy Spirit's station. That is my norm of the music that I listen to, which is nothing, right? The music of nothing, or the music of love of God. It's nothing and everything. It's all music and no music all at the same time. And then, like I was talking about, where you're picking up another station because you're not in great reception, that, and something else will come through. To me, that's ego. Something else will come through, but I'm not fully dialed into it. I hear it, it's noise, but then I go back, to my spirit, floating through. And oh my God, I love living that way. It's
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And you bring it into every aspect of your life, every aspect of your life, you use it. And that's what we're learning to do, is to transfer the training that you were talking about, that mind training, into every situation.
Mm.
I like what you said about waking up in the morning too, and how now you just know, now you're just there. You don't really have to, there's not a whole lot you have to do or say or even ask for, because, ask for the guidance because you already have the guidance. It's in there. You already have it. I love that. And I love what you shared, Leon, about the abstract and how, um, the Holy Spirit uses the specifics. He uses the specifics and shows us this is a theme throughout the course. And
Wow.
it is so helpful. And the one that came to me is in the special function, which I recently read, which is forgiveness. Forgiveness is our function, but the special function is it's more of an all-inclusive. It's when we get to that point of true forgiveness, where we're really forgiving all of it. And he says in paragraph 4, such is the Holy Spirit's kind perception of specialness. His use of what you made to heal instead of harm. To each he gives a special function in salvation he alone can fill, a part for only him. Nor is the plan complete until he finds his special function and fulfills the part assigned to him to make himself complete within a world where incompletion rules. So that's it, right? It's like, this is accepting the atonement for ourselves, basically. It's accepting the Holy Spirit's kind perception of specialness. He's so kind. The perception is so kind and gentle, and it uses the I don't want to say the word, but for lack of a better word, the crazy, insane stuff that we made into beauty, into something lovely. The Course uses the word lovely. And then we are able to have that peace that we're like, oh, thank you so much. And the problem was, I wasn't including everyone. That's the problem. And that's what, the more and more I read this, the more and more all I hear is it's about being all inclusive. And that's what the law of God, the main law of God is, the inclusiveness of including everyone. So if I can't include everyone in my prayer, it's not a prayer, because if I'm not including my love, if I'm not extending it to you and everyone, if I'm leaving that one person out, which I have, because I wasn't, I am hiding the face of Christ. I'm still blocking the face of Christ. I'm still not able to see truly. And this is what the Course has taught me, that I can't leave anyone out of the circle of atonement. And that's true prayer, because true prayer is true forgiveness. It's true perception. It's seeing all the same. There is no difference. We may be on different, places right now. Our time is definitely different. Our time zones are all different. We all live in different areas, and we're all on different parts of the ladder, and truth, but we're all the same. And we all have the same goal, and the same purpose. So that's the beauty
Excellent.
of, yeah.
Excellent. Because again, what you're highlighting there is love is abstract.
Yes. Yes.
Love isn't specific.
Yes.
And there's something that you've made me think of here where it's from the manual, and he says that now he consolidates his learning. Now he begins to see that the transfer value of what he has learned and its potential is literally staggering.
Yeah.
It's like, why we have to work in specifics initially, because that's what's bombarded us, because we projected perception onto specifics. But the end game has to be that those specifics are used to show you the transfer value of the abstract, the general. And again, it's interesting. It's like recently I've been thinking about how Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity and theory of general relativity, there's a couple of phrases that have just been bandied around for like 110, 120 years now. And yet, what a helpful learning tool that is, general relativity, relativity being a derivative of relationship. I have a general relationship with everything as one, and not being specific about anything. Or I have a special relationship, special relativity with a point in all of that I've put a frame around, and I've taken the abstraction and the free flowing, all encompassing, undefinable nature of it. And it's no big deal. Again, like to echo what Briana was saying earlier, when these things crop up, because they do, because we're here, who cares? You don't carry shame. You don't, because then you're in ego. And it's something
Right.
Keith Kavanagh used to say, which was brilliant. It's like, it's the ego that resists the ego.
It's
Yes,
true.
yes, absolutely.
Superb,
That's
and as
beautiful.
Ken used to say, right-mindedness is looking at the wrong mind without judgment.
Yes,
The end.
Exactly. The
that's
And
end. That's
exactly
right.
it.
another couple of brilliant things about Ken is, when you look at the workbook and you divide the workbook into like very spiritual, very sort of the language being God and salvation and things like that. There's also a whole section of the lessons which are just pure psychology. And when you think
Mhm.
of Ken in his favorite two lessons, 5 and 34, of like, I'm never upset for the reason I think I could
Mhm.
see peace instead of this. Those are a couple of clangers you could drop into any conversation, and
Always.
nobody's defenses are going to come up and go, oh, someone's trying to speak to me about God and love and all of that. And this is the guy who like totally had the course in his back pocket. And in those two references, there's no use of the word God, Christ,
Right.
salvation, heaven.
Yeah.
It's just like, hold on a minute. I'm never upset for the reason I think. I've taken my general relativity with oneness and I've switched to special relativity.
Yeah.
But guess what? I could see peace instead of this. Bang, back over.
Bam. That's beautiful.
And Ken
That's a
always told
great
us,
practice.
yeah, absolutely. And Ken
Perfect.
always told us that this world is a classroom. And
Yes.
Albert Einstein said that this world is an optical delusion. And these specifics that we're all working with is our classroom. We
Yeah.
use the specifics to
Right.
get to the abstract.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
reason that we have to include everyone is because we are everyone. So
Mm.
if we don't include someone, we've now excluded ourselves as well.
Yes,
It really
absolutely.
does come down to the ones and zeros again. It really is just math. And there's only one of us. So if you're trying to separate anything out, boom, the oneness is gone. The healing is gone. You didn't use the classroom to heal, you used it to separate. So that's another way that we could put it into ones and zeros of each moment of each day. Are you using your classroom to have wholeness or to have separation? Which are you doing? And the ego is always wanting to separate and make things special. And it is very tricky for people to understand. How do you have friends, partners, children, parents, whoever, people we think we love, people we do love? How do you have that? And then also practice this course at the same time? Well, you use those specifics to remember the greater abstract love. Yes, you think you have special love for these people, but now take that great love that you feel in your heart for these people and extend it to everyone else. And by the way, anyone that we think we have special love with, we also have a lot of special hate with those people. Right? It's always flip sides of the same coin. So again,
Should I
that's
feel guilty for that?
no, absolutely not. You should laugh. Remember to laugh at it and then forgive it, knowing that when we do that, it's just because we are in fear, because we think we're separate. We're trying to protect ourselves and defend ourselves. That's why we're attacking others in our mind. And that whole thing is just making separation our belief system. We're just believing in separation when we're doing all of those things. So every time we do those things, we're in our classroom, we're doing an exercise, and we can laugh at ourselves and then try again, because we failed in that moment to remember who and what we really are. But that's okay. The whole thing's an illusion. There's no such thing as time, and we have as many tries as we want to get it right. And Holy Spirit is very loving and very patient and waits forever, because none of this is even happening. So when we decide to wake up, that's our decision. And Holy Spirit, who is us, by the way. It's the higher aspect of our mind.
Yes,
So it knows
absolutely.
all the cogs in the wheel. It knows all the gears in the clock, and it knows how everything needs to work together for the one us to awaken. So if we just follow Holy Spirit, all the burden is taken. That's what I love about this course. There's no burden. There's nothing that I have to do. No, nothing.
No, I need
All
do
I
nothing.
do,
Need
right. You need do nothing but follow your joy. Like, to me, that's all it is. Just follow your joy, because that is Holy Spirit. And then, of course, the new trick when you enter that room of follow your joy, well, which joy is ego and which is spirit? Well, again, you use your classroom to discern,
Yeah.
does this make you feel peaceful or not? And if something's coming from ego, that peace does not last. It's always an up and then a down, an up and then a down. That's ego. And you can easily spot it once you know that spirit is consistent and steady.
Yes,
That's peace. That's having peace no matter what appears to be happening
right.
in the world.
That's right.
And then if your emotions are taking you on a ride, know that you've tuned into the ego radio
Yeah.
station instead of spirit. But none of it is serious. None of it is to be taken seriously. None of it is anything to feel bad or guilty about, ever, 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 ever. It's literally
Ever.
just pretend dream classroom. Again, I'm thinking, I was talking about Harry Potter before we started recording. I'm thinking about Harry Potter, the lessons, right? The exercises that they go through to learn certain skills or whatever. That's all we're doing. We're exercising our skill of how to go from ego specifics to spirit abstract, which is where the love and the peace are, which is where our truth is. So all of this dream is just one big exercise, to do that. And there is no hurry, there is no rush, and we can have all the fun we want while we're doing it in our classroom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The
And the other
Son
thing
of God
that,
no,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no.
I just wanted to say add to Ken, because Ken would also say it's a prison or a classroom.
That's right.
So it's a prison if we want to believe these ego thoughts are real. But that's where the Holy Spirit comes in, because the Holy Spirit transfers what Leon was talking about. He transfers what we made into a prison into the classroom to learn the lessons we came to learn. It does not have to be a prison. I mean, I did think so at one time, because it was a prison. And that's what I knew. I really believed in this prison that I made for myself, but yet I didn't think I made it. I thought it was the world was the problem, and the boyfriend was the problem, and this was the problem, and that was the problem, until I learned true forgiveness and I learned to take responsibility. So what we're talking about, everything we're talking about here is so universal in the course. When you talk about the peace, that's one of the main things I love about this course. He tells us in the first review lesson to bring the quiet with you, bring it with you wherever you go. True denial. Deny that anything other than God can affect you. I could see peace instead of this. There's nothing that can affect my peace if I don't give it the power. This is what we're learning here. And this is no matter what, there's no hierarchy of illusions. There's no order. It's like this is like a brilliant system. And there's one more thing I wanted to share, because Leon was talking again about the transfer of training. That is another huge theme throughout this course. And that is basically really from, the special to holy relationship is one of the main areas. But, and this is saying this in a different way. This is from chapter 12, the vision of Christ. It's so beautiful. he says, love transfers to love without any interference, for the two are one. As you perceive more and more common elements in all situations, the transfer of training under the Holy Spirit's guidance increases and becomes generalized. Gradually, you learn to apply it to everyone and everything, for its applicability is universal. This is what we're talking about here. This is what the Course in Miracles is teaching us with true prayer, with true forgiveness, with true perception. I love it. I just love it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm so grateful. I just want to say how grateful I am that Leon put this together, because this is happening at a perfect time for me, because I'm really, I'm really just getting all this, to believe it or not. This is all just actually happening for me. That's why I said we're all on different levels here. We're all on different rungs of the ladder, even though we're all the same. And all this has been coming together for me. And this is so helping me to excel even more and even practice it even more and get in touch with spirit even more. That's what I was talking to Brianna about. That's something I've been working on, is really listening to spirit more. So this is just so grateful. Just want to
And
express my gratitude.
that's the case for all three of us.
yeah,
And thank you.
exactly.
I mean, we're all supposed to be here. Holy Spirit arranged it.
Yes.
Leon
Yes.
listened to Holy Spirit and arranged it. I listened to Holy Spirit when something very funny was commented on one of my videos, and I thought, who would appreciate this humor? And spoke to Leon when we hadn't spoken in a while. Like it all comes together right at the moment that it's supposed to. And the three of us coming together, not just discussing with words this, but our energy together, as we're interacting, that is awakening all three of us to another level for sure. 100%.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of things you're both saying there that I want to bring up as well, which is, I think, the emphasis on echoes as like a descriptive term, and the symbolism of that, just essentially, I reduce that right down to thinking there's only two thoughts. There's the thought of love, which is silent because it doesn't need to say anything and it's got no opposite. Or there's the thought of separation, which does have, let's say, a billion echoes. And often I'll reflect on my dreams. I quite like waking up in the morning and thinking, what was that all about? Because it's very easy to overlay some sort of idea that there's something really deep and meaningful to this dream that I had. And then when I can trace it right back to that one central thought that all of this mad script arose from, that one thought might be just like, oh, don't forget, today you've got to go to the shop and get some milk or something. It can be that ordinary because it's just one thought, and what we see in the whole world is a great big mirror in every moment, in what, if you want to call it a classroom, or if we use the word mirror, you just see your frame of mind. This is how I'm jiving at the moment. How? Well, how it's reflected back at me, what echo comes back at me. And another thing from the sharings then is like to not forget that beautiful symbolism of the changeless dwelling place. And like Brianna, when you said, you can chase the joy or you can follow your joy, but that can be ego joy or spirit joy. If you're not being vigilant for God and the kingdom first and foremost, the ego, of course, is going to use everything. As we know with the Course language, it'll say Holy Spirit will use absolutely everything to awaken you to the memory of God. The ego will use absolutely everything to block you to that memory. So when you do follow the ego's joy, and like you said, it has the peaks and the troughs of the roller coaster ride, because special love can be special hate. The changeless dwelling place is a really, really powerful bit of symbolism to take with you, because that is abstraction, that is unalterable, that is true peace, that is true joy, that's a window into the love.
Yeah. And that is something that and I think Brianna can relate to this because physically, what I've been going through, it's changing all the time. So I remember that changeless dwelling place. You know
Mm.
what? The truth of who I am never changes, and that peace never changes. It's always there. It's that's what I remember when this body is like sometimes driving me insane. And sometimes I think like I can't handle this right now. I just can't deal with this. But that's okay because it is going to continue to change because it's form. It's always going to change. But that changeless dwelling place, that's the peace that you were talking about. That peace never changes. It's constant. It's always there. I can always go there. I could see peace instead of this. And those two lessons, Leon, I use almost on a daily basis because it's like I am never upset for the reason I think. I am not upset because of what's my body's experiencing right now. It's really not why I'm upset. I am upset because I made a decision to listen to the wrong teacher. I am listening to these attack thoughts in my head, and I'm believing they're real, and I'm believing this body is real, and then I'm believing the story I'm telling about it, and then I'm going insane when all I have to do is ask Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. Use this. Show me how to use this in a better way. I could see peace instead of this. And it works. It actually works. It actually works.
Always tells us that it's not about our behavior, it's about our thoughts, that we can be behaving one way and be thinking something very different. And that made me, when you were just saying what you were saying, Karen, it was making me think about for example, what I was just telling you with my ankle before we were recording, and how, I have my ego story of what happened, what appeared to happen in the world, where the doctor did not take proper care. I wasn't getting the cast or boot that I needed. All these things were happening where I can be the victim and, have my little woe is me story. And even though I told you that story, and I told the physical therapist this morning that story, I'm still not taking it seriously when I'm telling you that.
Yes.
But for me, where I am on my rung of the ladder with my awakening, I'm still wanting and needing to see that perspective, to tell that story. But then, as a part of my lesson for me in my classroom, the way that I work, I tell the story, but then I don't take it seriously and I don't get upset about it. And then I go abstract and assume health and assume peace and assume that everything's going to be balanced and fine, which in many respects it well, I shouldn't say, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say in many respects. That feels wrong. See, now I'm just following my intuition. That felt yucky when I said that, so I'm going to change it, right? It's not an ego brain thought thing. It's a, ooh, that didn't feel right. So basically, I'm telling the story because I'm still acting out an echo of my ego life that I think that I am. And I think it's partially also so that I can relate to other people, because we all think we're living in this world. I don't know what all the reasons are why a part of me is still acting out this sort of ego storyline, but for me, um, it's so that I can react to it and change it and see something different. It's that old habit of seeing things as I'm a victim of the world and this is my woe is me drama story. So it's still there, but I'm using it as a tool to say, okay, yeah, that would be the old ego thing. But the truth is, even when I'm telling the story, I'm so bored. It's such a boring story. It's so typical and so boring. But I still think it needs to be said because my ego wants to be like, look at me, I'm a victim. I'm not left out. I'm in the club like you guys. Look at me. A part of me still wants to identify with that and still say, look what this, mofo did to me. But on the other hand, I'm not taking it seriously. I'm laughing at the whole thing and I'm assuming peace and perfection, whatever God thinks that is, because I know I'm not this body. And then next thing you know, I'm at peace. And I'm not attached to what happens to the body. And that's why I'm saying it was a nice little surprise for me today working with the physical therapist to see how strong my ankle actually is. And you know why some of the strength is there? I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but one of them is because I never got the proper care. I never got the cast or the boot. So because I was using my leg and my ankle so much more, it did heal, the bone healed, it did its job, and I didn't lose as much muscle strength as I
Right.
would have had I
Right.
had a cast or a boot.
Yes.
So here I am telling the woe is me story, how I didn't get what I needed, but at the same time I see the gift of Holy Spirit. So that it was the right thing for me to not have that. And I can do both at the same time is what I'm trying
Yes.
to express here.
Yes.
That I
Yes.
can act out
Yes.
this echo of my ego storyline of what I think I am and blah, 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 blah. I can do it, but I don't take it seriously. And then I think the other thing at the same time, not think it, be it. I am, I lose myself in the abstract of what is true
Hmm.
after I just told that silly little story, because it is a silly little story. And then I go home to truth, and then I feel at peace. And that these are the circles that we take over and over again, except they're always, spiraling up.
But that's,
And
very helpful as well, because when you get this thing in spiritual circles where people say, who are you without the story? Who are you without
yeah.
your past, without your future? Just as a way to help people to center themselves in the changeless dwelling place and say, right, I can't say that my name's Leon. I can't say I'm a man. I can't say I'm married. I can't say my age. I can't tell you my job. I can't tell you. It's like, you think from an ego point of view, reduce, 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 but what? But really, it's discard, discard, discard. So that you can find the abstraction of the changeless dwelling place. So, but in a flip side to that as well, I know from my own journey, feeling defined by the past and the traumas and the story was limiting. But then equally, because I'd had like what's that, indoctrinated or conditioned to be guarded and conceal a lot of stuff in what had gone on in my upbringing,
Yeah.
then that would keep the story hidden
Yes.
verbally. So
Mhm.
then when I get to a level of trust with someone, then I could verbalize the story, but I was still probably in an ego thing of going like, oh, this happened to me, like a woe is me thing. But then that story became the yardstick or the marker for me to be able to refer to it in an offhand way. And I always remember a particular friend of mine, we'd known each other for, I don't know, a couple of years or so. And it got to the point where I told him a shitload of stuff about my past. And he was literally like, whoa, really? And his response was, do you know what? I actually love you more now that you've told
Yeah.
me all of that stuff. And that really affected me in a
Yeah.
really lovely way. It was a really beautiful affirmation. And it helped me to be able to tell the story in an offhand way. Oh yeah, this happened and that happened. Really? What? And you're all right now? And it's like, yeah, you're all right now. So you can forget your story if it helps you to identify with the changeless dwelling place, the abstraction of that shared identity of who we truly are. But you can still, Holy Spirit uses everything, ego uses everything. You can still tell your
Yeah.
whole story, and in a way that someone can tell that you're not bothered about it, you're not defined by it.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And two things that came to me when Brianna was speaking and when you were speaking. When Brianna was speaking, it came to me that, be in the world, but not of the world. So you're in the world. And then the other thing, be normal. Ken Wapnick would say, be normal. So yes, you went to physical therapy today. Yes, you had to tell the story. This is what happened. You have to be treated for this thing. I mean, this is what the body needs. The body is a need machine. That's what I keep hearing over and over. The body is a need machine. So be normal, we're being in the world, but not of it, because you know the truth. You laugh at it. You're not taking it seriously, but you still got to go through the motions and do what you have to do. And that's what we're learning to do. We're learning to be in the world and not of the world. And the stories, as far as the stories are concerned, I love that story you just said, Leon, because I said that about someone once too, and I'm not going to mention the name because it's a well-known teacher, and I don't want to put the name out there, but I said to myself, I love him more because of that, because of what he shared that was very personal about himself. I said that I love him more now, because we love that, because we all have that. We all want to just be loved. And because we think we are the home of evil, darkness, and sin. Lesson 93. Light and joy and peace abide in me, but I feel like I'm the home of evil, darkness, and sin when I listen to the ego and I think of all that I did, all the past, And so when we can share that openly, I think the stories can be helpful. The stories are helpful when they help others. It's not that we're attached to them. It's not like the song Glory Days by, Bruce Springsteen. It's not that. It's just a helpful reminder. Yes, this happened to me. And now look what the Holy Spirit did to use it to help myself and others. Because it's helpful. People want to know. I know when I was in AA, I mean, the more the therapist had experience with alcohol and drugs, that's the therapist I really could relate to. The ones that were just book, I mean, they were helpful in their own way, but the ones that really were in the trenches and dealt with it, they were the most helpful because they knew what it was like. So that's why we are here to be truly helpful. And those stories are very helpful. So I love hearing people's stories for that reason.
And there is no such thing as sin because
Right.
on two different levels, of course we know it on the course level, there's no such thing as sin because it doesn't exist, and sin is just darkness, which is the absence of light, which is there is no such thing. So we do know that. But even within this world, the way we think of things, there's still no sin because everything can be used to flip it and make it love and make it helpful, like you're talking about. So, we all have things in our past that from an ego perspective, we might feel ashamed of, or we feel like it's sinful or whatever. But as soon as you confess that to someone, typically you've just helped someone. So sin immediately gets turned to love, which shows you that there's no such thing as sin. Even within our ego world, there's no such thing. It doesn't really exist.
No.
Yeah, you could challenge that when it comes to semantics and say, okay, well, what about, a child being abused or, things like that. But at the same time, you have all these different levels to look at it from. You can see that it's not even there. It's a classroom. It's a dream. You can look at it from the soul contract level. That child came in incarnated already knowing it was going to be abused. It chose it because it wanted to learn, so on and so forth. So no matter what angle you look at it from, it's still not real. And the only thing that is real is love. No matter which angle you look at it from, no matter what level you look at it from, that's still always true.
And that is the Holy Spirit's perception. The Holy Spirit sees only love or a call for love. So that is a very helpful reminder to exactly what you just said, but just in that simple term right there. What the Holy Spirit sees, it's love or a call for love. So I love being reminded of that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
So as a musician, I can't not go back to paragraph 3 because this is just so cool. You cannot then ask for the echo. It's the song that is the gift. Along with it come the overtones, the harmonics, the echoes, but these are secondary. In true prayer, you hear only the song. All the rest is merely added. You have sought first the kingdom of heaven, and all else has indeed been given you.
It is, yeah.
Really beautiful. Such a great use of language and symbols, because overtones are gorgeous in music. They're occurrences that aren't intentional. So you can play a chord that's got a series of notes that combine to create a feeling. Notes that come from a scale, and they either go together in a euphonious way or in a discordant way. And by playing that, inbuilt in it are these overtones, which they're not what you set out to do when you put your hand in a specific place to play a chord. And harmonics, again, absolutely some of the most beautiful noises you can hear from instruments is the harmonic, the way a string is plucked without really pressing the string down against the neck of the guitar or whatever. And this gentle plucking just allows the note to just vibrate for forever, basically. So, and the echoes are secondary. In true prayer, you hear only the song. You cannot then ask for the echo. It's the song that's the gift. You could almost like just make a loop out of that little paragraph and just read it round and round and round, because it's just got one, like the whole course has really, it's got one message in it, hasn't it?
Mhm.
It answers its own question. But I love the emphasis on the asking, the true prayer. You hear only the song.
Yeah.
And
These
that's
are
the
my,
love.
yeah,
That's the love
Yeah.
it
that
is.
we're talking about. And that's
It's
just
a
so
song.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah. I don't know if either of you have ever heard of this, but I've heard of it from people who have had near-death experiences specifically, but maybe even people just who have had out-of-body experiences. But basically, they hear a symphony, out in the universe with these. I'm thinking of one person in particular who described it, that he had this near-death experience and he was just kind of floating through space, and he saw like I'm trying to remember what he said. I think he saw, is it like all the planet, like everything he saw, all the stars, all the planets, and everything, like they all made, music, and then it all worked together in one glorious symphony together. And
Wow.
I've heard this many times from different people of different sort of out of body type experiences. And, the more you study spirituality and metaphysics, you understand that it's all about frequency and resonance, that this is what's happening here. Our bodies are not real. As Einstein said, they're an optical delusion. Quantum physics has shown over and over again, there's nothing here. It's all being projected from our mind. And all of that is happening through frequencies. And so it's all about which frequencies we're tuning into. And even if you listen to spiritual teachers like, Bashar or Abraham Hicks or whatever, that are more, it's still within the illusion, the dream that they're talking, but they're talking about how to manifest. And it's all about frequency, aligning with
So
the
true.
frequency you want. Obviously from a course perspective, we have no interest in that, but the frequency we do want is God, and is that unconditional love. So when with this, the paragraph talking about, the echoes and the harmonics and the overtones and everything, I see that as this description that I've heard of before of this great symphony, of the universe. But once again, when we're perceiving the universe, we're perceiving separation, different harmonics and frequencies, different tones, different planets, different, everything. There's all this separation. So that's why in the end, it's just the song. It's
Yeah.
not all separate pieces of the song. Yes, they're beautiful. Yes, while we're in the world, but not of it, we're experiencing all those nuances and they feel really good. But in the end, the real truth is the song. And all of those echoes, harmonics, and overtones are within the oneness of the song.
Yes.
Nice.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well said. So let's have another recap on part 4 then. The secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. To ask for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and then forgive it. Also, in the same way, in prayer, you overlook your specific needs as you see them and let them go into God's hands. There they become your gifts to Him, for they tell Him that you would have no gods before Him, no love but His. What could His answer be but your remembrance of Him? Can this be traded for a bit of trifling advice about a problem of an instant's duration? God answers only for eternity. But still, all little answers are contained in this. It's so.
So this paragraph keeps making me think of the story that you told last week about Helen and the green pantyhose.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
repeating in my mind as we're reading this today. And this paragraph in particular made me see it all over again because, we were talking about how we appear to be all at like our, these different levels. And Helen Schuckman was at a fairly low rung of the ladder when she was trying to practice this course. She was very attached to specifics. She would pray for specifics like green pantyhose. And what was I saying? So when it says but still all little answers are contained in this. Oh, I know what I was going to say. It's about trust. So when he's talking about remembering God, we only do that through trust because we're afraid. This is why we default to the ego all the time. It's out of fear. So in order to awaken, we have to build a relationship of trust with spirit. That's like at the foundation of it. Like you can't get anywhere on that ladder. You cannot go up the
That's
rungs
right.
unless you
That's
develop
right.
trust. So a beautiful way to develop trust of us afraid, seemingly separate egos in this false pretend bubble illusion is to work with these little tiny specifics, like finding green pantyhose and then coming across some other people at a store that she never would have gone to, therefore came across people
Right.
she never would have come across before, which I'm
That's
sure had some sort of grand effect on their lives as well. That it's through these little specific incidences
right.
that is allowing us to slowly build that trust with God, with Holy Spirit. So
Mhm.
it really doesn't matter how many times we need to learn that lesson through specifics, through green pantyhose and things like that. It doesn't matter. It's
Right.
all for practicing, learning to trust Holy
Yeah.
Spirit's guidance. So if you
Yes.
think pantyhose are really important and you were led to a store you never would have gone to before and you found those green pantyhose and you made a connection with someone else that never would have happened before, like, oh, you can hear the angels singing, like that is where you were supposed to go. Like that is a beautiful, beautiful moment. So even
Yeah.
though, from an ego perspective, we could judge Helen and say, you're not practicing the course right and you're praying for the wrong things. And what are you doing? You're not doing it right. That's where she was. And that was helping her to develop trust with
Yeah.
Holy Spirit. And that is how we remember him and how we, get to
That's
where we're looking to go, which is this complete awakening. But we have to deal with those little specifics first to
yes.
even warm up to developing that relationship of trust because we are in so much fear, And that's one thing that Ken was really good at. I mean, he did scare the shit out of me plenty of times. I'm like, oh my God, the ego is insane and cruel and vicious and like all of these things. But I
I
needed to
know.
see it. I needed him to point all of
Yeah.
that out,
Yeah.
and he does it so geniusly. But as we do it, as we see the ugliness, the darkness, the viciousness, the goal of the ego, which is just keep us in circles and miserable all the time. Once we can see it, then we can start to forgive it. We can overlook it. We can start laughing at it. And it kind of naturally creates this distance, this natural dissociation from not taking it so seriously because you can see how stupid it is. I mean, it's funny. The ego's funny. The ego does some really lame, insane stuff. And then we're funny because we're falling for it all the time. And so if we can look at it from that perspective, then we are taking it less seriously. We're not so rooted, in the ego's thought system anymore. And we've developed this trust so we can keep giving our mind over to spirit, which is this very abstract
Yeah.
radio station that we're tuning
Mhm.
into.
Yeah.
So the
Beautiful.
transfer value of asking for some green pantyhose is literally staggering.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what actually led her to the Song of Prayer. If it wasn't for the green pantyhose, she this probably may have not been written.
That
Okay,
is a
because
perfect example. Thank you for
that's
saying
it.
that. I didn't know
That's
that. No, I don't
that's
really follow all these details.
yeah, well that's what happened. What happened was she was always asking for specifics, always. And the green pantyhose story, I love that story because that story was a specific thing she was asking for, but she was guided to go to the store that she wouldn't normally go to.
Yeah.
And, so she listened to her guidance, she went, and that's where she found the man who had the child who was mentally retarded. And that's what she specialized in. And she helped him. But going back to Ken and her were having a conversation, and Ken And Jesus also said to her, she heard Jesus say to her, I think you need to go deeper. Okay. It's nothing wrong with asking for specifics. There's nothing wrong with it. And it got you to where you are now, but you need to go deeper. And that is what led her to write this, to ask for true prayer, to what we're really asking for, to what we really want, what we already have. And when you brought trust up, I had thought that initially when I read this very first paragraph in the very first sentence, that prayer is a way offered by the Holy Spirit to reach God. I have to trust the Holy Spirit. I have to trust before I can give it to Holy Spirit. And then once I develop that trust and develop that relationship, then I can be honest. Then I can tell everything and just let it all go, because it's not easy, to do that at first. It's not easy to look at all that stuff, but that's the main thing of forgiveness, that we do have to look. And this is where he says in here, I love paragraph 4, but in paragraph 3, he says, you have sought first the kingdom of heaven, and all else has indeed been given you. So once we do that, once we first recognize the truth that the Holy Spirit is the answer, the love, the song is the gift, the love is the gift, the song is the gift. And the echoes are like the specifics. They're the little things that lead us to that song. And it's like you said, it's just so perfect. I mean, it's just so beautiful.
But I gotta say, I didn't know that the green pantyhose story led to the Song of Prayer. And me hearing Holy Spirit
Yeah.
talk to me about the green pantyhose story, which I know very little about. I only know what you said last week. And it's been bugging me about the green pantyhose story the entire time we've been talking. I've been hearing Spirit over and over and over and over again. And then this fourth paragraph was like the perfect place to bring it up. But I'm saying I'm talking about the fact that I have developed trust with Holy Spirit. I just go off my intuition and whatever Spirit leads me to say. There's only one of us, all minds are joined. So even though I, Briana, in my ego mind, had no idea the connection between the green pantyhose story and the Song of Prayer, Spirit did. That's why Spirit kept telling me to bring it up to you, who did know that connection. So I brought it up, and then boom, we come full circle. So
Beautiful.
that is the perfect example of what happens when you talk Holy Spirit.
There it is in action. We recorded it. We recorded it. We've got proof. We've got proof of the Holy Spirit because we've recorded it on Zoom. Without that, none of us would have ever known whether the Holy Spirit was real or not. Now we do.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Wow. Wow, that just ties a beautiful little pretty bow around that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Joyful, inspiring, insightful, helpful. Excellent.
Very beautiful. Very helpful.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much gratitude.
Mm.
And fun. Don't forget fun. Don't forget all the
Yes,
laughing.
fun.
Remember?
Lots of laughs. Lots of fun and lots of
Remember?
laughs. We can't.
Very important.
I'm just engaging in a bit of true prayer and just, I can feel that I'm just remembering the memory of God, not asking for anything because it's already been given and I'm already in possession of it forever because time changes. So if something changes, it's not real. But yeah, thank you both. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Peace out.
Peace out.